We head out to Zimbabwe, where Zimbabwe's President Emmerson Mnangagwa said his country wouldn't be able to participate in Africa's leaders' plan to shift towards clean energy due to lack of funds. Mr. Mnangagwa told African leaders at the annual African Union AU Summit in Ethiopian capital Addis Ababa that his country largely depends only on its domestic resources. Details of that in this report.
These leaders are developing a strategy to see Africa shift towards clean energy. But Zimbabwe says it is unable to do so due to lack of funding.
If we had no sanctions, we would speak about attracting investment into the country. But because of the constraints of sanctions on us, we depend on our own domestic resources in the country, and also from the private sector, global private sector, who are not constrained by the sanctions imposed on us.
But even for countries which don't face that problem, it is still difficult to attract funding for clean energy projects.
The first thing is to really look at the progressive nature of our tax system. Because again, a lot of governments would say, oh, we can't pay for it, we can't afford it. The second one, and it's something that we did in Senegal, is essentially, and it's the same in France and many other countries, you have to criminalize non-payment of tariffs. Because the reason governments subsidize is because nobody pays the energy bill. And so when the energy bill is not paid, the government has to step in. When the government steps in, the utility falls.
But climate change activists say there also needs to be a focus on education.
Part of our model at Little Hands Go Green is to make sure that while we are thinking changes, let's start with the children at a nascent age. Because once you inculcate it in them at a tender age, then by the time they are working for the UN, working for so many other non-state actors or conglomerates and corporate companies, the mentality will have changed. They will have grown with an inculcation of thinking about conservation.
The UN Economic Commission for Africa is helping willing African countries to access financing for clean energy projects. The UN Economic Commission for Africa is creating dialogue between African public and private sectors so that member states can get financiers of mega energy projects. Economic experts advise government to create relevant incentives and more favorable investment policies that will encourage private sector to take the risk to venture into the energy investment.